Hi, my name is Hafidz Rizky. I have the matrix ID of 240845224. I'm studying artificial intelligence at University of Malaya, so I chose banking system with inheritance for my PTG homework. So here for the concepts, it asked me to implement the inheritance overriding encapsulation with the base class of account, subclasses of savings account, current account, which is subclasses overrides the calculate interest withdrawal rules. Now, for the challenge is to implement a validation logic and monthly interest computation. Wow. Okay, so for my project here, let's start from the hierarchy. It first start from the interface. Why? Because in the account or the base class, we are going to implement the interface. So interface essentially works as a contract. So here on the interest bearing, which is in English, it's like the product that make interest. So yeah, here I made like calculate interest, apply monthly interest, and withdraw, and this is expected. So in models, you have to implement all those three. And then this is the base class, and I use abstract here. Why? Because I have something here inside here. There's a public abstract void, public abstract double, because I want its subclasses to create their own logics. That's why I decided to do that. Okay, now what is a class? So a class essentially is like the blueprint or a template for creating objects. However, for abstract, you can make an object out of it. It's a blueprint. You have to implement the abstract class. You have to implement the logic first. So the implementation methods is a bit different. Now, let's start from the above here. I'm using an encapsulation here. Why encapsulation? Because I'm limiting who can access these variables. As you can see here, it is protected, which means it can be accessed by its subclasses, but not by other packages because it's not public. Because if it's public, it can be accessed by pretty much anyone. Now here, there's a private, which means it can only be accessed by its own class here. And the reason why I do this, because I don't want the number format to be accessed by anything, any subclasses or any classes other than this account. And here, because I need it. Okay, and for the final string account ID, which means I make it final, you cannot modify it further. For this, double balance, this double string and list, it is essentially as a variable or a place that you can store your data in. Now here, this is the constructor. Okay, so in this constructor, I require parameters, so they have to put when they want to use this object, they have to send the account ID, holder name, initial balance, and an annual percentage rate, in which every one of them will be checked by the validate string and validate non-negative, in which if you violate any of those rules, it will throw an error to you. Now, let's get cooking. Okay, here, as you can see here, it will set the parameters values here to the variables on here. Okay, and then here I created a record transaction feature. So the way that it works is that every time you call this function alongside with the parameters, you will add the transaction list. You will add onto the list. Now, what is the list? Now, this is a helper class I made in order to make a transaction history data. So I created this model in which it has type, amount, post balance, note, and timestamp. And now that you mention here, there's only accessor and constructor. Reason being because once it has been instantiated, I don't want any of the content to be changed here. Reason being because I value integrity so much. Okay, so there won't be any monkey or funny business happening around here. Now here, this is the accessor methods, and this is setter methods, and then this is the deposit method. So if you call this, okay, on any of the subclasses here, since it's type of public, you can access it here, you can access here, or you can even access it here. Now, what it does, it adds the balance that you have, which is a function or a method. So that defines what an object can do. Okay, and then here there is an override class because I want to make a base monthly interest here, and then this is the public abstract void here. So you have to implement this. You have to implement this on the subclasses because it's a logic that is missing here. It acts as a blueprint that you have to do. And then here, this is the display account info if you want to see the account displays. account infos, and then here is the display transaction history if you want to see the histories. And then the rest, it's just stuff. And then here, let's move on to the current account. And then here, I also implemented 3 attributes here. And then I implemented a constructor here in which it will validate whether the transaction fee is negative or not. And the rest of it will be validated by the account validation stuff. So it wouldn't get passed, trust me. And then here, for the rest, such as transaction fee and withdrawn today, it will start here. Okay, it will after this constructor is called and this object instantiated, this will be called. Okay, and then this is the accessor, and then this is the logic that we want them to make or implement from the blueprint that I made. Okay, here. For the current account, the differences between this and the savings account one is that savings account, you can withdraw as much money as you want as long as you have the money. As for the current account, there is a daily withdrawal limit in which I set it hard-codedly as 10,000 ringgit. So you cannot withdraw more than 10,000 ringgit in this account. And then here, there is also its own calculate interest feature here. And then there is a reset daily withdrawal if you want to reset the daily withdrawal. As for the savings account, let's move on here. There is a constructor here in which you will do the same. It will fill the attributes up here, and there is a constant here, withdrawal fee of 1 ringgit. So if you want to withdraw money, you have to do that. You have to pay. Okay? And that only happens if you run out of free withdrawal each month. And as you can see here, down here, it also have the feature to reset the monthly counter and to get the account type. So it does have some getter, or should I say accessor. Okay, welcome to the demonstration part. So here I am on the half bank class or the tester class that I made. And then this is to instantiate the object from a class. So actually what an object is an instance of a class. Now, let me try to instantiate it with using its required parameters here. So then let me try to start, and then here, see, this is a summary of the account created. There is a withdrawal limit of 3 times each month. No, it's a free withdrawal for you guys that uses half bank. And then this is the deposit. You can try to deposit money. I tried to deposit 1,500 to the savings account, 800 to the current account, and then I tried to withdraw it 4 times from the savings account, in which 1 ringgit fees will be incurred to me. And then here I also made a current account withdrawals, which will cost you 0.5 ringgit every time you try to process the transactions. It doesn't have any free withdrawing options. And then I tried to do some bit of a validation in which I tried to withdraw a sufficient amount of funds, which means I don't have that much money there. And then for the savings account, I implemented like a minimum account balance that you have to maintain. So if you don't have that much, you cannot withdraw. Okay, so like we try to withdraw 549 ringgit, and it turns out we cannot withdraw because the balance after that we're only left with 399, where the minimum balance should be 500 ringgit. And then I tried to change the APR from 3.5% to 4%. Then I tried to calculate the monthly interest, which has its own, like on the current account, it has its own. On the savings account, it has its own, as you can see here. Let me bring it up. See, calculate interest here. That's the monthly interest. Close up. Okay, and then I also made a function to check the projected growth. So if you put your money for quite some times to us, you can see how much money can you get. For instance, you start with 868 ringgit with the APR of 4%. If you put your money on our bank, you didn't do anything with that money, you will earn around 239 ringgit, 0.09 ringgit for 12 months of your savings here. And then this is the transaction history that I was talking about. As you can see here, you can see the transaction history for each account. And you can see the account summary again, in which I used the limit, the free withdrawal limit. So yeah, further transaction of with that's like withdrawal, I gotta pay. For this one, yeah, I withdraw 700 ringgit, which I have to pay 50 cent each time I withdraw. Okay, let's go to the Q&A section. Okay, so I'm with Hillel. So go and ask your question.
Okay, my question is, what is abstract? Because I don't know.
Okay, so abstract here, it acts as a blueprint. Okay, so that means like the subclasses such as the current account and savings, these two have to implement their own override methods. Okay, they have to implement it because each one, for instance, current account and saving account, both have different logics in terms of how to withdraw, how to process the withdrawal requirements and methods. You know. Okay, so I'm with
Malik.
Malik. Okay, Malik, go and ask your question.
Why do you use private double here while you use private final double on here?
Okay, the reason why I use private final double here on the daily withdrawal limit is because I want to make it like this is a constant. Okay, so this value, whichever value that is imposed or that is assigned to this two variable here, it would not be modifiable. So it would stay that way. It would stay that way, so it cannot be changed at all. That's the reason.
Okay.
Okay. Hello, so I'm with Shen. Okay, so yeah, her question is, what was your question?
How about change the private to public?
Okay,
What
so
will happen?
her question is, what if we change the private to public? So what will happen? So with private, it would only be accessible within the current account class. Okay, so other classes such as account, savings account, they can access this if the type is, if the access modifier is private. But if it's set to public, that means the account.java, the savings or account, or anything that has instantiated the current account class, it would be able to access this and modify this variable. Okay, thank you. Hello, so he's gonna ask me a question.
Yes. So Hafidz, why are you using an extension account?
Okay, the reason why I'm using extends here is because I want to do the inheritance, because I want the account, this class, I want this for the balance. It's currently set as protected, right? I want to modify the balance here, in which I use it here. For hints, I'm checking the balance, because I want to use something that's defined here to be able to use it here. Okay, so now she's gonna ask me a question.
So what happens when you remove all the accessor?
So what would happen if I remove all of this 3 accessor? What would happen is that you can't really get the variable, because here it's set as private, right? That means you can access it here. You can access it on the main class. Yeah.
Great.
For the reflection part, I think if I have enough time, I would want to implement a transfer functionality so I can transfer money from a savings account to the current account. Or I could, try to ease out on the throw error. Reason why I'm using the throw error, because it was the easiest of handling systems, because if I were to use like Boolean and stuff, I have to make it on the main and then I have to do it there. That will be a bit messy.